Now, I think it's fair to say, like most FPL players over the last week or so, I've done a lot of tinkering to my FPL draft. And here is my latest one. Now, starting off in goal, I've gone for Flecken. Now, I don't think, and it certainly looks like Brentford fans are saying on Twitter, it doesn't look like David Raya is realistically going to play for Brentford again, which is why they've signed Flecken. In my opinion, he's probably the best of the 4.5 million goalkeepers. They've got a good set of opening fixtures, and if he's anything like Raya last season, he's got a good chance of getting a lot of saves bonus. Pretty much saves bonus every game like Raya got last season. And got to be completely honest, there's not a lot between the 4.5 million goalkeepers. I really just happen to have landed on Flecken, just hoping that he can recreate Raya's season of last. First defender is Pervis Estupiñán of Brighton. Not really much needs to be said about him. He is the most popular defender in the game at the moment, and I've got to say I can see exactly why. Luton, Wolves and West Ham as his opening 3 fixtures. He could realistically keep a clean sheet in all 3 of those games. Not mentioning as well, he's nailed in that Brighton team and probably the most attacking of all of their defenders as well. You know, playing fullback, he bombs forward down that left-hand side. I think he could be a great option across the whole season, not just for the first 3 fixtures. He's in my team, and it makes sense that he's the most popular defender in the game. Now, I've gone for Rico Henry as my second defender. I've actually got 2 4.5 million defenders in this team, and I'm going to rotate them depending on fixtures. One is going to play basically when they've got the stronger defensive fixtures. You'll see who the other one is when I reveal my bench. But Rico Henry's starting because of the 2 defenders I've got. Tottenham is the stronger fixture, so Henry's going to start that first game for me. Similar sort of reason for Flecken as to why I picked him. Brentford were very good defensively, well, reasonable defensively last season, I should say. And Henry is absolutely nailed in that team. He featured in all 38 games last season. Doesn't have a lot of competition for his position in that Brentford team. And I think regardless of whether they play 3 at the back, 4 at the back, whatever it looks like, Henry's going to play. So I think he's a nice and safe 4.5 million option. I've gone for Trent Alexander-Arnold as my third defender, primarily because I think the upside that he potentially offers is absolutely fantastic. He could score as many goals and get as many assists as midfielders of a similar price. And of course, he gets extra points for clean sheets, which I think Liverpool are going to keep more of than they did last season. You know, the improvements they've made to their midfield, I think, basically fixes their team. They do need to sort out the Fabinho situation. If he leaves, they do need to sign someone as a replacement for him because I think, to be honest, every Premier League team needs a top-level centre defensive midfielder, and if Fabinho leaves, they need to replace him, basically. But in general, the improvements Liverpool have made to their midfield, I think, fixes their team, both going forward and defensively. We're going to see Trent playing that inverted fullback position again. I'm almost sure of it. The upside of attacking returns he's got is fantastic, as well as the clean sheets he's likely to keep. Now, first of my midfielders is Bruno Fernandes. The reason I've gone for him is just for the minutes that he plays. He's got a great attacking upside. In fact, last season, he had 17 expected assists. He only made 8 or 9, but he had 17 expected assists. And it looks like Man United are going to sign themselves a centre-forward this summer, which makes me think that Bruno Fernandes could start to actually... Well, it's not Bruno Fernandes that needs to convert the assists that he's bringing. It's the striker. I feel like if Man United sign a decent finisher, he could be right up there and even challenging for the assist records next season. I think the signing of Mason Mount only serves to improve him and allow him to get even more forward than he was playing last season and really become, you know, that final ball for a goal. And yeah, I just think 8.5 million is great value for him. Compared to how he did in his first season at Man United, right? I think second season he was priced 11.5, 12 million, something like that. And now he's dropped all the way to 8.5 million. And I know he's retracted a little bit, but I still feel like the upside of Bruno Fernandes, you know, he could get similar returns to that first season that he played for Man United. He's on the penalties, and the strength of Bruno for me personally is just the sheer amount of minutes that he plays. I mean, you could realistically back him to play 38 games every season, as he did last year. He featured in 37 of the 38 games. I think he only missed 1 due to injury, and even then he started playing through that injury itself. So he's a 90-minute man. You can guarantee he's going to start every game. I think he's a brilliant option. Now, upon hearing the Riyad Mahrez news, and of course the fact that Kevin De Bruyne is injured for the start of the season, that makes me think that Phil Foden is going to be absolutely nailed to start in that Man City team, probably on the right-hand side, which in my opinion is probably his best position, you know, on the right-hand side, cutting in on his left foot. His expected returns last season were up there with all of the other midfielders I've got in this team. And of course, you know, the likes of Saka, Martinelli, Bruno Fernandes, Odegaard. He was right up there with them. And he's priced slightly cheaper, obviously because of his expected minutes being a bit less than those guys. But I think with the sales that Man City are making and the injury with Kevin De Bruyne, you've got to back him to play at least the first 3 or 4 fixtures, which is really the timeline that I'm looking to pick this team for. Burnley, Newcastle, Sheffield United is the first 3. Obviously could do without that Newcastle fixture, but 2 promoted teams in the first 3 games for Man City, you can only see goals. This next guy has been in absolutely every draft that I've made. Bukayo Saka is by far and away the best 8.5 million midfielder in my opinion, purely for the fact, similar to Bruno Fernandes really, he's going to play the most minutes of those Arsenal midfielders in my opinion. You know, the signing of Kai Havertz, he can play on the left, he can play number 10, and he can play deeper in midfield, which I think is the role that Arteta's going to use him in primarily. But Saka, I just think he doesn't have any real competition on that right-hand side. And in my opinion, he is Arsenal's best player and takes their penalties. So nailed in the team. I think he's going to have more of a, you know, drift inside role as well. I think he's going to be cutting inside more and shooting more next season, with potentially Timber playing right back, who could be a bit more attacking than Ben White was. Yeah, just in general, I think he's a fantastic option. And he's, like I said, he's on penalties. So he's got all the upsides you could ask for, which makes him, in my opinion, the best 8.5 million mid. Now, I started off the game saying Mbeumo was by far and away the best 6.5 million midfielder in the game. I'm starting to lose that opinion a little bit. I still think he's the best, but the fact that they're looking to sign, well, I think they already have signed Brennan Johnson, who was, of course, the penalty taker for Nottingham Forest. I think that takes away a little bit from Mbeumo's upside. Yeah, we'll see how he gets on through pre-season. Whether he keeps the penalties when Brennan Johnson is on the pitch, I mean, we'll see what happens. I think this is probably the position that's most up for grabs in my team at the moment, just because Mitoma is very close in terms of expected returns and like nailedness in the team. And if Mbeumo misses, you know, loses the penalties, should I say, I think it's very close between the two of them. At the moment, I'm sticking with him because that Brennan Johnson transfer has not been confirmed yet. But if it does get confirmed, I think he could be missing out of my team. I think I could be swapping him for Mitoma. I certainly think it's close now between the two players, and I think we need pre-season to play out for me to finally decide. Now, I personally don't think Martinelli is getting the love that he deserves in people's teams this season. I think for the returns that he got last season, 8 million is exceptional value for what he can provide. You know, we're looking at the likes of Odegaard and Saka at 0.5 million more. I think, you know, you can justify them being a little bit more expensive for the expected minutes, but realistically, Martinelli played a vast majority of the games last season. I think he had 34 starts in the Premier League and played in 36 games, so he realistically only missed a few games, and that was, of course, with Arsenal having European football mixed in, so it's obviously going to be the case next season as well. But with the signing of Havertz, like I said, he could replace Martinelli, he could replace Odegaard, and he could play deeper in midfield. So there's a little bit more competition on that left-hand side for Arsenal. But I still see no way that Martinelli doesn't at least start the first 3 games. And with Forest, Crystal Palace and Fulham as the first 3 fixtures, my God, I think he can have an absolute field day on that left-hand side. And I certainly see him starting the 3 games. The only way I don't see him playing the 3 games is if his performance levels drop. And if they do drop, I think he's a realistic transfer out of the team anyway, just as any other player would be if they've been playing terribly. So I'm going to start with Martinelli. I think 8 million is great value, and personally, and you're sort of giving away who's up front there, but I think you can just see it behind the blurs. I think the best way to stick Arsenal in your team to start with is to have 3 attacking players. You know, those first 3 fixtures, Forest, Crystal Palace and Fulham, they scream goals to me, and I think I'm going to go with 3 Arsenal attackers. Now, I've gone very template with my front 2, but I really do think this is the best strike force you can have in the game. Gabriel Jesus at 8 million, I think is great value for the upside that he provides. Very similar expected points to Martinelli, and you got to think for the first 4 or 5 fixtures, is going to be starting every game. And comparing him to other strikers, there's not really many good cheap strikers in the game that you can back to play every football match. So Gabriel Jesus is in my team for that reason. I don't really talk about Erling Haaland. You know, top scoring player in FPL last season. He's going to be my captain probably for the first 3 game weeks. And here is the team as a whole. On my bench, I've gone for Areola. It looks like well, certainly a lot of West Ham fans are backing him to take Fabianski's spot. Fabianski is certainly getting on a bit in terms of age, and I think Areola will be looking to leave West Ham, to be honest, if he isn't getting a starting spot. So I do foresee him starting games next season. Another one to add, looks like Tom Heaton is nearing a completion of a move to Luton. So he's also 4 million. So you could potentially have a 4 million goalkeeper rotation, or just another 4.0 million keeper that we could back to play every game. So it could be Tom Heaton in that spot come the start of the season if somehow Fabianski is still starting for West Ham. Matty Cash is the other 4.5 million defender on that rotation. I just think Villa are really going to turn it on even more under Emery next season. He's a very attacking fullback as well, and yeah, I just back Villa to have a really strong season, probably stronger than Brentford. So in the majority of games, I'll be looking to start Cash over Henry, but comparing Newcastle away to Tottenham at home for Brentford, I think that fixture just edges it, which is why I'm starting with Rico Henry. But I think for the next couple of game weeks, I'll be starting Matty Cash. Semenyo for Bournemouth. I mean, you could have any of the 4.5 million strikers. In fact, I've made a video, you can check my channel, for the best cheap strikers in the game. I've said Semenyo is probably the most likely of the 4.5 million strikers to play the most minutes. So I've gone for him. And then I've done a little bit of an analysis of the 4.0 million defenders. You can see that in a video on my channel as well. I think Baldock is the best. He's got a good chance of starting all the games, and he's got the most attacking upside, in my opinion. So I've gone for him, basically. And that's my team. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed having a look through my latest draft and found it useful. Let me know in the comments if you change anything, if there are any players in particular you replace with another player or whatever. You know, FPL, as I always say, is all about different opinions. So if your opinion on your draft is different to mine, I'd be interested to hear it in the comments. Please leave me a like rating if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just there. And I'll see you in my next video.